If you look at this as a financial investment, a way to make money, build equity, for savings account, in my opinion, that is the stupidest reason to buy a home in today's world. If you are thinking about buying a house, I am going to take you through my entire process from thinking about it, completely walking away, and then deciding this is the right decision for me. And by the way, I'm in California. So we got a lot to talk about, but I already have gone through and I have literally watched all these interviews and conversations around buying a home so that you can learn the best from this. And by the way, I will link all of this down in the description. As you can see, there are so many videos. Literally, this guy got older as I was watching so many videos to figure this out. We're going to go through my entire process, and this is going to be quite analytical, but not just on numbers. I'm going to take you through my whole mental model, everything I needed to evaluate to come to the right decision for me. Now, this might be a little bit chaotic because I'm going to be covering a lot of information. So we're going to try to start with some key details about me, my life, my finances, everything that matters for this decision, and then go into the market a bit, and then talk through all the ways I actually evaluated this decision. So the first thing we got to take a look at is affordability. And is it the right time to buy is the next question. But let's talk about affordability. Now, right now, without sharing everything, I have about $250,000 liquid that I can use in my down payment. As well as additional investments that I don't want to touch, but it is a nice safety net behind that in case anything happens. Next, I live in California and most of my family is here. And I am not bougie, but I'm definitely not cheap. I grew up in a way that I definitely like things that are nicer in life because when I was younger, there were times I couldn't afford stuff, and I prefer nice things. I prefer clean things. I prefer things to be organized. Can I live in a different means? 100%. I literally slept on the floor for 5 years of my life. I know how to live with a lot and with a little. But if I had a choice and I'm making an active decision on either, I'm going to prefer the thing I like more, which is often going to be a little bit nicer. So most likely a newer home is going to be more ideal for me than an older home. And again, that's just my preference. Another preference I have that's really important to note is that I like to have 12 months of my mortgage or my rent, in my current situation would be rent, in my bank account. Now, I know that might sound like a lot, may sound impossible, but I'm just telling you how I think. I want that at a minimum. It gives me peace of mind that when I'm working with a current brand on a video or a project or whatever, I don't stress them because their money isn't paying that month's bills. I'm telling you, that brings so much ease to my life and workflow that I just value that freedom a lot. And over the course of the last 7 years, I've actually built a lot of freedom. I live pretty frugal compared to how much money I make. I save a lot of money every month. And I have a lot of flexibility. I'm single, not married, don't have kids, don't have any dependents. So that also dictates a lot of what I can do as well. Now, the next thing, when it comes to actually talking about affordability, we do got to talk about interest rates and loans and what you could get approved for. If you're a W-2 employee, you could get approved for a certain amount depending on how much income you make and a certain percentage of that going towards your living. For me though, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as someone who makes money from hundreds of different places, different brands, affiliates, other things like that, my income is good, but it's not stable in the bank's eyes. So I have to do something called a bank statement loan. My bank statement loan is getting me approved for the amount of a home that I'd actually want to purchase, which is great. But there are some stipulations in that. I don't get the cheapest interest rate because I'm more risky or something like that. At the same time, I have to keep my debt to income ratio about, I think it's like 50%. I just have to keep it as low as possible. And that's just to appease the lender. We're not even talking about what makes me comfortable. And trust me, I know this is a lot of information, but it's just so we get context as we start looking at everything, because you need to decide between all these things, what makes you comfortable versus the lender. The lender is gonna want to, let me just give you my first tip here. The lender is gonna want to to give you the biggest loan they possibly can to make the most money from it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's a house you could afford. And so you need to make those decisions as you go through the process. And so for me, I would say, I would call this, luckily, I was able to get approved for up to a $1.3 million loan, which if I put 20% down would lead to about a $260,000 down payment to get started. And mind you, I didn't say this, but you know how I said I have a higher interest rate because I'm doing a bank statement loan? Well, if I put less than 20% down, I'm going to get PMI and my interest rate is going to go up as well. Now, if you get an FHA loan, you could get it for as low as 3% down, which is kind of outrageous if you really can't afford the home, but you just want to force it or try to get into it. So that's a whole nother conversation. But for me, my numbers add up to an even way where I even look at my own personal numbers, how much money comes in every month and how much this mortgage potentially may be. And I get to a number that I feel it stretches me, but it is something that I feel is doable. Now, let's talk about the home without specifying the exact home because I'm not sharing on the internet. All right, a few things here. So the home I'm currently in escrow on right now is being listed or sold for 1.26. It was listed higher. We negotiated out to 1.26. I have a very high property tax because of something called Melrose, which is if you're in an area that is a new development, they have Melrose tax, which is right here on top of it. I also have HOA, which is expensive as well. It's $680. Again, I'm in Orange County, so some of these are expected. Insurance is at $427 right now a month, which I honestly think is a little bit high. It's probably closer to $200 with what I was looking at the other day. And then Melrose we already added, and then closing costs. And I think I'm actually closer to 1.8% in closing costs. Now, what you're looking at here is a calculator I built. So this is the first thing. I've built a bunch of things that we're going to take a look at. I've used almost every AI tool I could think of. I use a tool called Replit you could build apps with it. And so I just prompted it and said, this is what I'm trying to figure out. I want to be able to compare options side by side. And again, I didn't know at the time that I would never have the option to get a conventional loan or an FHA loan, but I want to see kind of what would come up. And so here, really my only option is a bank statement loan or a 5/1 ARM. Now, the 5/1 ARM, actually, I can't get it because other reasons, but we'll just leave it at that. And so you're going to really want to talk to your realtor about this as much as possible to get the hard facts as soon as possible so you could really think about the numbers. Because as you can see here, with this current interest rate, which is right around where I'm going to get approved, and this loan amount with the $252 down, my total payment every single month is going to come out to about $9,200 with closing costs. That's $274,000, basically $275,000 just to get in the house. And we're just getting started. These numbers get more egregious as we go. One of the things that I don't like, I could have maybe specified this in the app, but I just want you to know this. If you don't know this, we have to talk about it and you have to look at it. Is going to be the principal and interest. The fact that they bundle principal and interest, it makes sense in one case, but it also screws you over in 99% of the cases. If you do not understand how that works, which I suck at pronouncing the name, but it's the amortization table. I don't know why. I just literally cannot pronounce that. But let's do amortization table. Let's do this one, US Bank. Just take a look here. What is this? Make extra payments? No, sorry. I don't know why that word just literally doesn't want to roll off my tongue. Okay, so let's just look at the loan amount for me after I pay. This is going to scare some of you. And I'm like, so sorry to say this, but it just will. And you got to consider this. You just got to understand this. Because if you're looking at this, I would say there's two ways to look at a decision like this. In like big buckets, there's like a lot more to say. But in big buckets, if you look at this as a financial investment, a way to make money, build equity, for savings account, in my opinion, that is the stupidest reason to buy a home in today's world. And again, there's so much information here, and specifically in a expensive area, Los Angeles, Orange County, San Francisco, New York, some of the most expensive cities. This is a really, really bad thinking model. There was one video that talked about the best cities and the worst cities that I'll link down below that really helped me just kind of see that. Like, I think they said Idaho is like, that's comparable to rent. You might as well get a mortgage because it's going to help a lot they said a lot of other stuff, but basically something to consider. Now, when I recorded this original video just about a week ago, I said something to the extent of there are two ways to think about this, but throughout the video, I never clarified those two ways. I talk about them, but I don't clarify them. So I'm making this short interruption just to clarify the two ways that I mentioned. One is going to be if you look at purchasing a home as a financial move, and the second one is as a lifestyle decision, which I'm going to elaborate on further down in the video. But if you were confused by that point and you're waiting for me to say the second one is looking at a home as a lifestyle decision. Now, back to the original video. What's important about this table is to understand that this blue line up here is your actual loan balance, and this line here is your interest paid. And what you're going to see is when you get into your actual schedule of your payments, this is so egregious. Let's just take a look at 2027 because that will be a full year. I'm going to pay $18,000 off on the principal, and I'm going to pay over $104,000 in interest. That's money that's gone. I'm never getting that back. And so over the course, is this math correct? 1,000,008. Over the course of the first year, I'm going to pay over like 50,000, close to 50,000, 45,000, sorry, here, and only 6,300 is going to pay off my actual principal. This table is the craziest thing to see because what is happening is principal and interest, right? Principal and interest. You're making the same amount of a payment every month, but the numbers like move slowly over time. And you know how slow they are? Again, if you've seen this already, you could fast forward to the next section, but this is like the most important thing. If you do not open a spreadsheet and do this, do not buy a house. You need to look at this and understand these numbers. Do not buy a house because it's a good deal. Do not buy a house because a realtor told you to. You need to understand these numbers before you take any action to really understand how much money is going out, what you're doing, what you're committing to, and all of that. But for us in this case, it's like year 21 is when you start to pay more on the principal than the interest. And you heard me correct. Year 21 of a 30-year loan. And just realize this, that nobody keeps a 30-year loan. Like you refinance 7 years in, or you move 12 years in, or something else happens. You pull out cash like equity from your home. There's so many things that can happen that nobody ever keeps it. So if you think about it, if you restart at year 7, nobody does this math either. I've never heard anyone talk about this. If you restart at year 7 and then you restart at year 5 years after that, and you restart again, you're like starting at the beginning of this table, which is always not going to favor you at the beginning. Like all this principal paid, you see how low that is? And then the interest paid and how high it is? It's like crazy. So by the end of this loan, just take a look at this. Principal paid, let me see, is that correct? As of, what's it doing? There we go. Principal paid, that's what I owe, $1,008,000. By the end of it, I'm going to pay this plus this. If I just stay standard, which this is kind of where we're going to get to later of like how if you pay a little bit extra or if you do one extra payment a year or whatever that adds up to with doing biweekly payments. We'll talk about all that. I'm thinking about all of this right now. So literally we're just getting started too. So if you're like already overwhelmed, I'm telling you, there's just so much to think about. But this table right here is important to understand. Plug in your numbers, get a sense of it. This is going to help you understand what type of investment you're making. One thing I'm going to say to this, I'm kind of jumping ahead. Let me take a look here. I have a lot of things going on right now. Let me take a look here. Okay, as someone who is a business owner, there are tax advantages, which if I'm understanding this correctly, the IRS allows me to deduct up to $750,000 limit, and because the loan is over $1 million, technically it's 74.4%. And so every year, the first year is going to be, I'm going to be able to write off $33,000. Again, this is just Google Gemini, so this could be off. Consult a tax professional, and I am not consulting you in any way of how to spend your money. But here we go. So every other year, I'm going to be able to deduct $50K. Now, if I do if I'm able to deduct this 50K every year, that technically means if my tax rate is anywhere between, say, 25 to 35%, let's just call it 30%, that means out of the 50,000, I'm going to be able to deduct 15,000. So again, this isn't a great way to make money, but if you're making the decision, it's an added benefit on the other side of it. All right? Because I have to spend $110,000+ a year to save 15,000. That's not good math. All right. So let's just be very, very clear about that. Now, going back to this original kind of graph here, we're taking a look at this 20%. I really wanted to build this because I wanted to compare different types of loans and then different types of down payments. Now, I found out later that I really can't do anything below, like, say, 15% because getting approved is the hardest part. But generally, I just wanted to see these numbers, and it was really hard to visually see these numbers. As well as the other thing I personally want to consider, I told you about earlier, is that when it comes to a loan and getting into this, I also want to make sure that I have the next 12 months paid in my bank account ready to go. Well, if I buy this, all my other money is basically in investments. And so I'm going to have no like liquid cash. I have good money coming in right now, but I'm basically starting from zero. In some ways, that's a great thing. It's a forcing function. It's going to put a lot of, I think, healthy pressure on me to scale up. In another way, that is really risky. If, for example, I had a W-2, I think that would be too risky. I think because if I lost my job, I'd lose everything. Right now, I have so many different brands I work with. One brand likes me or doesn't like me. Like the risk, that's not a problem. The risk for me is more so if somehow like my YouTube channel is just gone. That would be the major risk. But what I am doing, again, there's so much information. What I am doing is I actually am looking for some type of contract work or W-2 to add to my roster of work. Do it for 6 months, do it for a year, grind hard. I'm already working hard, but like put in the extra effort, earn an extra anywhere between $6,000 to $12,000 a month. If I could do that with some type of work short term while I rebuild my savings, this is my goal. I move into this house. I basically empty my savings account to get in. And then from there, over the next 6 months, from basically, I'm going to say from now, but you could just say from like May 1st or say June 1st, all the way to like November or basically the end of the year, I want to stock up another 120K into my savings. So that means I need to pay my mortgage, which if you're looking at that, it's about $9,000 a month. At the same time, any of my basic living expenses, which I'll live as frugally as I possibly can, but pay off any of that, as well as pay my team, as well as save an additional $10,000 to $15,000 a month. That's a stretch for me. I'm not necessarily there right now, but that is something I feel like I'm on the trajectory for, and that's what we're pushing for. Like it's making me creative to like build. If this is like, I'll say this, I don't think it's a wise decision if that's the only part of the decision that would make this make sense. There are other aspects of this decision when we talk about the lifestyle side of it that make it make sense for me. And I'll say specifically, the house I'm buying was valued at 1.7 just about a year and a half ago. The square footage is about 700 square feet, bigger than most homes in the area at the same price. And it is in one of the best school districts. And it does have an additional 2 rooms beyond my bedroom and studio, which means I can rent out those rooms if need be. And so that would change the game completely. Like, there's a lot of other options for me, and I am thinking about when I start a family and have kids and all of that stuff, where there's definitely reason for me to say no, just keep the cash, or I can make more money in other places with the cash, which we'll take a look at. But generally, I just want to we'll talk more about those lifestyle decisions a little bit later, but I do want to just say that because if you are just thinking about just empty my savings account to get into this house, but you might have trouble and you have to make more money to make it work, I would say that's actually kind of like very, very risky. I do have a lot of investments behind me as well that if I need to, I can go to. But right now, the risk for me is that it is stretching me by just a few $1,000s. I honestly think if this number was like 7,500, if it was closer to like that, I would feel really good. But as you can see here, I need to put down like 550K to make that happen. So as of right now, that's something I just am not comfortable with, going that hard into like putting that much down. So right now we're sticking with the 20%. You're kind of getting a sense of my numbers and everything. And I'll show you some creative things I found along the way to make this work. Now, the next thing is, if you do want to talk about just numbers, I built this calculator where I basically said, hey, if I buy this home, what is my timeline to make this actually worthwhile and profitable if I'm paying so much in interest? Let me say one more thing too before I get into this. Taking a look at these numbers again, there is principal and interest, right? And interest is like money that's just gone. Property tax, money that's just gone. HOA, yeah, you get like accessory, like amenities, but money that's just gone. Insurance as well, but it's just a much, you're going to pay insurance probably anywhere you go in some form or fashion, whether it's a little bit more expensive or cheaper or whatever. All right, so principal is really the only thing you build equity on. And honestly, for the first few years, that's the least of all the money that you're putting out is actually going towards that. And so really important just to know that. If you're trying to make money here, this is not the way to do it. Go make money somewhere else and use that money once you develop a business or money in the market and what that pays you to get a house. Don't use the money you earn a daily living to get the house. Now down here, I tried to build a calculator. It didn't work out the best way. I didn't finalize it, but it kind of just gave me an idea. It was like, hey, if you end up buying a home, like here are your options, and like if you go for option B, you're going to have a cushion of this much or whatever. And so there are some things I was trying to like calculate here. The numbers don't add up, but how long it would take me to get back to feeling comfortable with a 12-month safety net. And so that would be for me at this current loan amount at $109,000. I'm just rounding up to 120 and we'll go from there. All right, now let's go back to this one. This one is going to feel overwhelming. There's a lot of information here, but go use the tools. Like, again, this is just something I built in AI. Literally just told it what I wanted to do and what I wanted to think about for me. All right, this helped show me that if I make this decision and say yes to this house, at minimum, I would stay there for at least 10 years. And the reason being, even here, the 10 years don't look that great. But what I would say is, like, when you consider closing costs, when you consider interest, property tax, if you're like, I bought a house for 1.3, and then in 3 years, I sold it for 1.5. You're like, I made 200K. No, you didn't. You didn't. Come on, realtors, tell the truth. No, you didn't. You spent money on property tax. You spent money on an HOA, which you don't spend money on those things when you live in an apartment. Those things are already like part of it. And then on top of that, you also paid a lot in interest. And that doesn't account any like upgrades or other things you do to the home. And it doesn't count closing costs, and it doesn't count, what's the other one? Seller, what's it called when you sell the home? Selling costs? That's easy. Okay, doesn't count any of that. So you got to consider that. And so I said, build me a calculator that actually shows me that. And again, if this video does well, or a lot of people want it, I could publish these things so you could see them down below in the links. So here we go. First year for me, and this doesn't even count my down payment, but you can see here, money out is 129K, principal paid 11,000. Home value might have gone up by like 40,000 right here. If I sold, I'd get cash from sale 246. And remember, I put down a deposit or a down payment of 252,000, so I'm already negative, and then I'm even more negative, okay? This was scary. Like when I first saw this, I called my realtor and I said, I'm out, bro. I am out. Get me out. Cancel. No. We're not doing this. I calmed down. I figured out why I was making this decision, and there were other reasons. Now, taking a look even more, let's go into a little bit more depth here. All right, so you can see here for me with these numbers, $1.26 million home, down payment at 20%, closing costs, again, this could go 1.8. And then for me, sorry, it just makes me scroll. Again, I just built this in like an afternoon. Bank statement loan, same percentage. Carrying cost, property tax, 21,000 a year. HOA, that's good. This is good. That's good. Okay, then this is where it gets really interesting because it depends on how the house appreciates. Now, in the last 6 years, houses appreciate in a very crazy way. That could happen again. Could something else could happen? We have no idea. What I do have a hunch on, and I don't bet money. I wouldn't bet your money on this if you would be bummed out if you lost it. But I'm imagining that interest rates are going to drop over the next few months as we get closer to the midterm elections. And so that will increase, I think, appreciation faster over the course of the next few years. I could be totally wrong, but we can go from there. Now, my rent is not $4,000. It's cheaper, but I round it up to kind of see the extreme here and get a sense of it. And right now, appreciation at 5% is pretty high, but if I do 6.5%, you're going to see my break-even year is about 10 years. And so Southern California, it's a great school district. It's a lot of great square footage. It's ideal location. It's one of the newest developments in my area. There's a lot of things happening here that really add this in. We're going to ignore this right now, this last part down here, invest in the down payment, because that's just a different vantage point. I'll maybe talk about it a little bit without going too in depth. But again, this is really important information to consider. So right now, 5-year horizon, I'd be negative $140,000. 10 years, I'd make $1,000. Wow, guys. But 20 years, it's a $1.15 million return. And if you really look at it in 30 years, this is where it gets interesting. Take a look here. Home value at a 6.5, that's a high percentage. Let's just do like 4% for the 30-year side. The value of the home is going to be around $4 million, which will be insane. Now, if I pay the loan off over 30 years, yeah, this is going to be, the numbers are going to be terrible. But generally, this is why this is important to me. Because I made a decision. I just said, like, if I don't buy a home now, I most likely won't buy one for the next 4 or 5 years. But even then, if I do buy one, and it's because I finally have more money, well, then I'm going to want a bigger home, and it's going to be more expensive, and I'm going to be in the same predicament. Like, it's a real, and you know, I can't predict the future, and I'm not trying to. But there's something here that I have to make a decision on and say, either this is really worth it to me now, or like kind of never. And one of the videos I watched, which probably, I don't know, I literally agree almost on like nothing with Dave Ramsey. I think there's some stuff he's really good at in certain aspects, but I also think I just don't necessarily agree. I think he's awesome if you're trying to get out of debt, but beyond that, I think there's just like, it's not always sound money advice. And it's not always realistic either. What I would say, even for someone like myself who makes good money, it's like his advice is not realistic. But what I would say is, like he said, you got to consider where you're going to be when you're 80 years old. And do you want that rent payment? And I'm like, shoot, bro, that's a good point. He doesn't talk about property tax. He never brings that up. Doesn't talk about HOAs, doesn't bring that up, but he does say, hey, if you're 80, do you really want to have it's usually a family or person's biggest expense is going to be where they live. And do you really want that haunting you when you're older and you're trying to retire, but you can't because that expense is so high? And that's where these things become a great quote unquote like thought process, because you are taking more of a hit now, but you're doing it in your working years versus later on when you're maybe in a more of a fragile state, and or like cash could get tight or other things could happen, medical bills. There's just a lot of other aspects of life that need to be considered at that point. So for me, I'm like, okay, if I say yes to this decision, I'm saying yes for at least the next 10 years. Now, if the market shoots up, amazing. If the market shoots down, that would be terrible. But like I'm willing to say yes to all of those things. I'm even willing to say yes to this house, even if my income doesn't go up, because I still think the bet long term is worthwhile when I think about this. I'm trying to build for the long term, I'm trying to keep my sights for the long term. And yeah, you could say, hey, go make 1.3 million or more than that, then buy the home. And there's merit to that. I don't know. I'm like at this point where this in a way is its own forcing function. And for me, there is a lot that has lined up for this to come to life. But these are all the things I am mentally considering as I go through this process. All right, some other things to just like look at here that we could talk about. This is kind of like all the cash, again, going out, break even, and then going up and making more cash. Bleed versus the build, how much money is going out versus the equity being built. Again, that table I showed you earlier, this is a better visual. All the red is the money going to interest, and this is like every year versus what you're paying on your principal. And so at the end, you pay $74,000 off your principal in a year, and you only pay $2,000 on interest, where here it's different. One other thing I am considering in this is I'm trying to get a loan that's at the right amount so that if I do, like if I land here at this like 9,000, I'm kind of interested why it's like 9100. It might be this. Let's do 20 because I think it's actually closer. Okay, there we go. Yeah, it should be around 9,000. All right, my goal is if I actually pay off an extra 1,500 a month, I'm not going to do that at first. I'm going to stack the 120, but then once I do that, if I could pay off more, it goes directly to my principal. I think you're supposed to call the mortgage company and say, hey, if I pay extra, make sure it goes to the principal, not the interest. So somebody said that. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but let's do the amortization table, paying off early. Let's take a look at this. I think I was on this one. All right, so the loan amount, let's do this math again. Here we go, 1,030,000. Wait, this is the same table. I want to pay off early. Mortgage payoff calculator. Yeah, this thing's hideous. Okay. This calculator is so old school. I think I'm just going to publish all my calculators. That's how I'm going to make my money. Watch it happen. Just watch it happen. Okay, 6.625. All right, remaining, we're doing 30. It's like the whole thing. All right, so it gives you a few options here. The biweekly payment, like I don't know if you've looked at this. And again, this is the type of stuff you got to pay attention to. If you do the biweekly payment, as far as I understand, basically 52 weeks in the year means you end up making 26 payments. If you make 26 payments, like against the 12 months, you're actually doing one additional payment per year because you're paying instead of 12 months, you're paying like almost like 13 months. And so that ends up saving you $30,000 in this case. What is it? Let me see. You end up paying it off 5 years and 10 months earlier, and it saves you $30,000 in interest just by making one extra payment or just doing bi-weekly payments instead of monthly payments. Now, that's just like step one. Step two is if you actually pay extra off. So in this case, if I pay an extra $500 per month, it is 19 years. 19 years, bro? Time saved, 19 years and 11 months. I would pay this off in 10 years. 500 is not crazy. Are you kidding me? That's kind of wild. I was thinking like, am I doing all my math right? I'm sorry, guys. I knew there was something off. What is going on here? Sorry, 1008, comma. Sorry. I knew something was off. Let's go back. I was like, I felt something. That makes more sense. That kind of hits. I was like, why is that so good? All right, so 1,008,000. If I do 500, it'll save me 5 years. But you'll see the resulting save in interest is almost $300,000 just by paying 500. That's really, really good. I think for me, where I want to be is $1,500, which is going to take me, that's going to save me 11 years, basically 12 years almost off the life of the loan. To get it down to something less, it'd probably be like 3,500 or more. 12 years at that point, which if you really get your cash flow right, bro, I'm talking like, if you really think about it, it's $1 million loan. If you can make $400K a year and you pay off the $100K that they ask you, plus an extra $150, which if we talk about 150 divided by 12, we're talking about $12,000 a month on top. I know that's a lot of money, but if you get your cash right, bro, you could pay this off. If I pay off $20K a month, I could pay this off in 5 years. That's a lot of money. I know some of you are looking at me probably like, this is crazy, but like, think like this dream, figure out what you gotta do to grow and make this work if you're really trying to do it. And I really want to do this. I love the home. I think it's beautiful. I feel like it's meant to be. That's like a weird statement to say. I've almost bought a home before, so I've kind of been in this experience, and I really think it's just not a math decision for me. It's a lifestyle one. It's like in the future what I want when I'm 80 with a family. If I need roommates, I could do it. Like it has enough space for it. It's beautiful. If I bought any home in my area, this is the home I'm going to end up buying. Like this is the one I would love the most out of any of them. So around this price range. So it's great. There's so much here where like if this money stuff wasn't too hard, I'd be like, yeah, 100%. Let's go for it. Let me show you some other things that I worked on. I also talked to, Perplexity here. I asked about the value versus like renting and buying. I forget exactly what I was trying to get into with this conversation. But again, this built a full-on tool for me. Let me try to make this bigger. Could I view? Full screen. Okay, here we go. There we go. And then get rid of that. And basically ask like, is it better for me to rent or buy in Irvine specifically, in Orange County? Because that's really going to dictate a lot of this. So again, looking at the house price here, mine closest would be 1.25 down payment, mortgage rate 6.65. That's great. 30-year HOA 680. So we'll do 700. holding period. This is where it gets interesting. So I just said 10 years, appreciation, monthly rent. Let's go up here. And then you just start to see, let's go to like 5,000. And then you just start to see like how much you're spending, your renting summary and your buying summary over the course of 10 years and where your money ends up. Again, these are all kind of calculations and things that you want to put together and use AI to like help you do it. I maybe spent $100 on all of this while I'm making a $250,000 decision. I'm making a $1.3 million decision, but like while I'm making a huge decision, it's giving me a lot of insight in terms of like what I can do, what I should focus on, all of that stuff. So down here, all the details of the actual mortgage versus renting. And again, if you're looking at it just from a numbers basis, this is great. All right. This is where things got really interesting. I spent an hour and a half talking to Claude, and I basically said, bro, I am in this situation right now where I am trying to figure out if I should buy this home. And I don't think we could talk numbers, but if you talk numbers, it's not going to make sense. And I'm not trying to force it to make sense, but I know a home is like a lot of people buy homes, and why do they? And like, why does my mentor who makes a ton of money, why did he buy his home? And I know when he bought it, he knew he could have leveraged that money elsewhere. So why did he buy it? And why that? And like, let me understand why. And so we went through the psychology of, am I interested? What do I want to do? Do I want to travel for a living? Do I want to do this? Do I want to settle down? With a family, what do I want? Like all of those things. And it came down to like a great list of conclusions, which kind of put me into this like table here. And actually, let me see. Here's a better look of that same table. So I love this. I love this. This is actually my decision making. If you buy the house, what you gain. If you continue renting, what you gain. It's not pros and cons list. It's like the freedom that I want to have in my life. There's certain things that are valuable to me. So I just kind of wanted to see those in the table. If you buy the house, you're going to be in a house that you genuinely love. It checks literally every box. I'm not kidding about that. Price, location, layout, the space in it. Plus there's space to grow, room for a spouse, kids, office, or all three. Forcing function. This is going to add real pressure that could unlock your next level. It's like there's something to be said about being 36 years old and thinking like, I own a home. I know I'm like, I owe the bank money, but like I bought a home. I'm 36. Like there's a leveling up that happens in that. Equity building over the long haul. Getting in at a favorable moment. This house is down by like $500K from its peak, and versus other homes with square footage pricing, it is amazing. Option to rent 2 rooms that I can make additional income. 2 studio setups if I wanted to. Like I do a lot of content like this, but I am thinking about doing other content, and I don't necessarily know if the black wall is best for that content. I'd have the option for that with ease. Top school district, psychological identity shift, and refinancing upside. All right, because right now the interest rate is high, so people aren't buying, so the prices are lower, so I could get in and then refinance in a year or two when interest rates are lower, but more people are in the market. It's the time to do it if I do it. Then on this side, well, you keep $250K in your back pocket if you need it. That's 7 years of work still working for you. Freedom to travel without guilt. I could go to Egypt or wherever I want to go at any time. No psychological weight or obligation. You take risk in your business from a place of calm. We talk through a little bit like, if I feel like I have a heavy mortgage, I might not feel as like open to spending thousands of dollars on hiring a new person in a specific role that may help the company a lot, but because I have these other obligations, it may limit that. So if I say renting, I don't really feel that pressure right now. Studio is already built, as you can see. If I use that money in options trading, we haven't really talked about that in this video, but it's something that I'm learning that is making me additional income. I can make an additional 100K per year just by doing that. The ability to invest in your business, stay selective with sponsorships, low monthly burn rate, and stay small and stay sharp. There's a quote that I heard, stay small enough, long enough, you'll be big enough soon enough. I may have done that already, or I may need to do that longer. In my opinion, I'm not 100% sure. I could try to stay smaller longer, but there is a moment of growth that's going to have to happen at some point, and this may be it. Finally, buy when income is undeniable. Instead of trying to force myself to make more income with this like forcing function, do it when you're there. And the craziest part of all this, and I know it's, again, I'm like just taking you into my world of like, I basically went to Claude and I said, hey, look, we're going to have a conversation. I want you to ask me as many questions as you can about this entire experience and this process and what you think is the right move for me against everything that we've talked about, against like what's happening, against like my mental state, like, and every factor that's a part of this, because it's not all just numbers. At the end of it, there was this crazy moment, and it looks like it to delete it here. After this, it was like midnight, and it's say April 18th, 11:55 p.m. I said, hey, you know what's crazy about this? I did some math, and I even said, like, if I lower my 20% down payment to 15%, have an extra $80K in the bank, and that's going to cover 8 months of the mortgage, I still have fear about this decision. And why do you think so? This was insane. This was better than any therapist. Take a look at this. Yeah, I think I know exactly why you're still hesitant or anxious about this. It's not the math. You've already proven the math works in multiple scenarios. It's something deeper. This is the first decision you ever made that you can't undo with hustle. It says a little bit more here about that and details about it, but this is where it gets crazy, bro. That's not a bet you can work out in a bad month. And for someone who has always been the safety net for themselves with no dad to bail them out, hello, Claude, come on, bro. That loss of control is terrifying. It's not, can I afford it? It's, what if I need to be saved and there's no one there to save me? What the heck, bro? That question got to the core of the difficulty of this decision for me. I'm telling you, the income's there, the money's there, the position's there. Thank God I'm even able to like have this entire conversation. But while I'm thinking about this, and it is actually probably worth mentioning, I am a person of faith, and so there's an aspect here of that is at play as well, but I also don't want to like deny common sense at the same time, and so I'm playing both of those really, really well to the best of my ability. But this is crazy. It's not, can I afford it? It's, what if I need to be saved and there's no one there? And then the part I love about this from Claude is like, does that land? I was like, bro, that freaking landed. I went to sleep that night like with so much like, I know exactly what is pointed at me right now in this conversation. Can't you see this is a huge decision? If you're considering this, like, I really hope that this video is helping you find out how to like think about it and press in and just do the research and make the decision for yourself. The gurus out there are going to tell you, like, if there are people who are anti-homes and people who are pro-homes, they're both going to tell you that is the best decision. It's not true. It's like, there's no blanket statement for that. There is no, Dave Ramsey is not right in 100% of the scenarios, and like Ramit Sethi is not 100% right in 100% of the scenarios. Like, and he actually acknowledges that. I wish Dave Ramsey would acknowledge that more, because what he tells people. But generally, like, there are situations that make sense to buy and where it makes sense not to buy. And I just think all these factors are helping me in my own life make this decision, because it's scary. It's honestly terrifying. Like, this part right here is the most terrifying aspect of it all. All right, in Gemini, I had a few conversations. I showed you this one about understanding what the tax benefits are here. This one was about paying off extra, like how much should I pay off additionally to really get to where I want to go. And then what was this? And this was just like looking at like returns in cash. These guys do really good, and they had a video that really helped me as well of like if you should buy or rent. I feel like they really hit on the modern answer for it. And when I say modern, not like it's new truths, but in a way of like contextualizing it against like actual interest rates and affordability and all that other stuff. But they have this calculator, and you're looking at literally the home price. So the mortgage is $7,500, as well as the 20% down, and then this is 25% of income. So that's where I'm at and where I want to be, which is pretty insane. We took a look at that. We took a look at that. All of these things I'm going to link down below for you, and I hope this helps you in your process of buying a home. If this video pops off, I will try to do my best to provide as many resources, and if I build out these calculators, I'll do it, because I really think escrow doesn't care, your lender doesn't care, your real estate person kind of cares, but they also have like skewed benefits at times. The seller doesn't care. Like, there is no one in this like that is gonna give you the cleanest advice for your specific situation unless they actually acknowledge all of it. They need to acknowledge all of it. I would say my realtor, I'm like so grateful for them, and they're doing me like they're doing so much for me. At the same time, I do need to be wise about every aspect of this, because once the home is like purchased, I am fully responsible for it, not anyone else. And so I got to make the decision fully for myself. And I hope this has helped you in your process of buying a home. And thank you so much for watching. If you got to this part, leave a comment. I will get back to you. If you have any questions, I'm not an expert, but I will get back to you in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. And I'm actually impressed because this is like a 50-minute recording, and this just was one long take of me talking through my experience. So thank you so much. Subscribe if you want more. We'll talk soon. Peace.